off with for today's card, I have the CC Designs Sugar Plums Cupcake Emma image, and I stamped it onto CC Designs Copa Quality white cardstock with my Memento Tuxedo black ink. And you notice I didn't have I just kind of quickly cut the image out of the scrap of cardstock I was using because I plan on cutting it out later. And I started off with the skin as always, and I used E50 and then E00, and then I'm going in really lightly with my E13. And then I'm going to blend that out with the E00 again, and then I'll go back in with the E50 to blend everything together. And you'll notice I stamped a second part of the image just where her cupcake and hands are. I'm planning on cutting those out. I'm going to pop them up on dimensionals. So there's no point of coloring those same spots on the main image because they're going to get covered up. So once I've got all the skin blended, I'm adding R20 for her cheeks, and then I'm going to go back in with my E50 again and just blend those out a little bit so they're not just harsh little circles like that. It's just kind of soft color. So I've got that done, and then as always I go on to the hair next, and I'm going to do brown hair. So I'm starting with E23, and I just flick the color, like pull it towards me, just in light strokes. No blending at all when I do the hair. You just kind of keep going back and forth, back and forth. So I started with the lightest, work my way to the darkest. So now I'm on to E27, and then I'm going to go in with E29. And that's when I do the most. It gives it the most definition. I usually find with hair it really helps to have at least 3, if not 4 shades to do the hair. So once I've got the hair the way I want it, I'm going on to the rest of the image. So I'm just using YR 30 and 31 for the bow on her dress and her shoes. So I laid down a little bit of the 30, added some of the 31. And then I'm just going to quickly blend that out, not making it super perfect. It just kind of gives it a little bit more of a mottled look, which works for me. So get that all blended, just like so, and that's where I was able to push out any of the little bits that I'd gone over with the colors I used for the hair, just push them deeper into the cardstock. So then now for the cupcake, I'm using RV10, and I decided to do her boots with that as well. And then for the bigger cupcake, I didn't worry about going over those little circles because I'm going to cover those up later anyway. So then I went in with RV11, added a little bit of a darker bit there, and then blended it back out with the 10. And then for the little bit of turquoise that I did, that was just BG13, and then I went in with the BG15, and I didn't bother doing any blending there because it was such small areas that the marker was still wet, and they're just fine. So I did that, and now for the rest of the cupcake, I am using RV25 and 29, which on camera, well, and even when you put them down, they look like neon. They go on really, really bright, but as these inks dry, they get a little bit more subtle, not so like crazy neon looking. But you have to be really careful with them because they're really saturated. So yeah, that's all the coloring for the image. I didn't bother coloring the bottom of the cupcake because I paper pieced it with a piece from the Echo Park So Happy Together pack. Just kind of, you know, like a little paper cupcake liner, so I thought that was rather fitting. And then I just used these little 3D foam dimensionals, popped a few of those onto there. And then I always use scissors to peel the backing off them because with my gel nails it's nearly impossible to peel the backing off of anything. So once I've got that, just pop that over the main image, and there we go. So the rest of the card I did the same thing with the So Happy Together papers so that everything matches. Kind of had a layout in mind of how I wanted things to be. So I just got those adhered into place, and then grabbed some ribbon from my stash, my favorite kind of go-to AmyRs texture ribbon. Love this stuff. I can't ever get enough of it. So tied it in a bow, kind of fiddled to get the bow where I wanted and the ribbon where I wanted it, because I didn't want it to completely cover the little character I just finished coloring. And then for the sentiment, it is from my Sweet Sentiments stamp set, and I stamped it onto a scrap of the pattern paper with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And then, as always, I am using my Stampin' Up! Key tag punch that was discontinued forever ago. I'm sorry I keep teasing you guys with this thing, but I love it. It's so perfect. So yeah, until I find something that's the same, I wish Stampin' Up! Would just re-release the stinking thing, because it just... all my sentiments fit in it too, and I don't do that on purpose either. That just happens. So, yeah. Anyway, Once I've got the sentiment how I want it, I left it hanging off a little bit off the front. And then for the little girl, I decided I'd pop her up on dimensionals too. Because why not? Once you've done a bit, you might as well go all out. So popped her up on the dimensionals. And then the reason why I didn't mind going over the dots in the cupcake was I was going to put rhinestones over it. And these rhinestones, they're in a Stampin' Up! Container, but I bought them at like the Dollarama years ago, like 4 or 5, I don't even know. I found them in the back of a drawer somewhere. I'd forgotten I'd even had them. Because they're such a pain to use little things like this. But now that I've got that embelly jelly, it's perfect. So I just put dots of the Tombow Mono Multi glue over the little dots on the cupcake. And then I just pick up the rhinestones with the embelly jelly and press them down, and it's good to go. So quick and easy. So I decided to put a whole bunch of rhinestones on the whole card, because why not? So I just dotted little dots of glue here and there all over the card, just to add a bit of bling. And then before I forgot, added one more to the top of the little cupcake on her bow, so it looks like it's got a little cherry on it. So once I did that, putting down adhesive on the piece of cardstock I'm going to mat it with, and I did it kind of backwards this time. Since I used liquid glue on all those rhinestones, I didn't want them to shift if I flipped it over to put adhesive on, so I just put adhesive on the cardstock and then lined everything up and pressed it down that way, so that I didn't wreck any of the front of the card. So, and that gives it enough time to dry. And then I did the same thing with the card base, just put the adhesive on the card base, leaving enough free on the edges so that there's no adhesive hangover. And yeah, put the card front on there, and that finishes off the front. So then for the inside, I just used some of the remaining pieces left over from what I used on the front, and then I inked up the little Cupcake Emma image again, this time with the Memento Teal Zeal ink, and stamped that on there just to give it, you know, a little something. And then added a strip of pattern paper to the side, and then I grabbed another sentiment from my Sweet Sentiment set, this one, the Happy Birthday sentiment, and then inked it up with VersaFine ink again, stamped it onto the same pattern paper I used for the front for the sentiment, and again my trusty key tag punch. So punch that out, and then I'm going to adhere that all together and put it into my card. So as always, there will be a link to my blog directly below the video, and that blog post will have a link to all the supplies used. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!